You really have to start with, what decision am I trying to inform with this research? Am I trying to inform the amount of something that I eat or I take or I do, or what policies should I have or not have in order to achieve some outcome? That's a causal question ultimately. And it doesn't matter whether we say it's association or whatever it is, we're talking about a causal question. And so in the case that our question requires causality, that we're trying to inform a causal decision, we have to use strong causal inference in order to influence that. We really need to be honest about what our questions are. So we should make that explicit. We should say, I am trying to inform whether or not I should eat more chocolate with respect to whether or not I'm going to have more or less Alzheimer's in the future. And then go back and say, okay, here are the methods that I used. How good are they relative to my question of interest? And try to keep those two questions, those two ideas, the uncertainty around it, and what the question is in the first place, separate so that we can understand what is going on instead of trying to shove them together. Inherent in most models is a structure that is implicitly causal. When I say scenario A versus scenario B in my particular model, what I am saying is if I change from scenario A to scenario B, then what is the result? And that is a causal structure, ultimately. There are lots of pieces of this that are typically causal. So some of the internals, so some of the parameters that we're dealing with, some of the things we're tweaking and moving things across and through these models are inherently causal. And so those parameters, when they do require causality within our model, must also be generated with causal inference, because ultimately our model is a causal model. Most cost effectiveness models, most cost benefit models, or budget impact, really most models that we're using for decision making have at least one place that causality is required. And we need to be able to have that in mind from the beginning, because our data may not be good enough to really inform that. Because cost effectiveness models typically require a lot of causality built into them from the beginning, one thing you can do is build your cost effectiveness modeling and your measurement into randomized controlled trials and other situations that would give you a strong causal inference in the first place. And if you do that, that means you don't have to go back and make quite as many assumptions later on. And that will tend to dramatically improve the reliability and robustness and usefulness of the study. That requires that you design your randomized controlled trial with cost effectiveness or cost measurement or all of these sorts of things that you will need in the model itself from the beginning. That may require you have a larger sample size, that may require you have different things that are measured in different ways. It may require that you think creatively about your design of the trial in the first place so that you can incorporate these things in a robust and useful way, so that at the end you have something useful straight away that is reliable and trustable and credible. That's really what the point of all of these studies is to create credible evidence. And the fewer assumptions you need to make, the more robust it is, the easier it is to understand, the more things are built in the first place, the more credible the result is going to be. One of the first things that I'll usually ask is, what decision are you trying to inform? Who is the person that is trying to make a decision? Who is trying to do one thing versus the other? And what are those options that they're considering? And in most cases, what you're going to discover is if you want direct evidence of that thing, that is going to require causal inference. Not all cases, but understanding when those are the causal cases versus the not causal cases, or if there are alternative ways of answering the question indirectly through non-causal means or methods. To me, that's the most difficult and important part of helping clients figure out what it is that they actually need and getting them to an answer that is useful and satisfying.